Let's start with a Tudor moment. In the late 1530s, when Mary Tudor was still fighting against being labeled illegitimate, she was forced by her father to write a letter to a woman she had never met, Mary of Hungary, the sister of Emperor Charles V. It was actually something we talked about on one of the Tudor Minutes this past week. When I was talking about it, it got me interested. Who was Mary of Hungary? Mary of Hungary was the sister of Emperor Charles V, like I said, and in this letter, Mary had to formally accept that she was a bastard and acknowledge that her mother's marriage had never been valid. And here's the part that stings. It wasn't addressed to Henry or to Charles, it was sent to Mary because she was the one that was actually running things in Charles's name. And that tells you almost everything you need to know about her position in European politics. She wasn't a queen consort tucked quietly away, she was a power broker. Mary of Hungary was born Mary of Austria in 1505. She was part of one of the most politically powerful sibling sets in European history. She was the fifth child of Philip the Handsome and Joanna of Castile, which made her the sister of Charles V, the man who ruled an empire so sprawling people joked that the sun literally never set on it. She was also sister to Ferdinand I, future Holy Roman Emperor. Through her mother, who was the daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain, she was a cousin with Mary Tudor because her mother was Juana, and Mary Tudor's mother, of course, was Catherine of Aragon. Juana and Catherine were sisters, so they were first cousins. So this was a family where power was inherited, but it was also very strategically assigned, and Mary was assigned quite a lot. Her political usefulness began young. After her mother descended into mental instability following her father's death, Mary and several of her siblings were placed in the care of their aunt Margaret of Austria, who governed the Habsburg Netherlands. Margaret raised her nieces and nephews like a political finishing school. They were drilled not just in etiquette and religion, but in diplomacy, in languages, logistics, and financial administration. The idea was that every Habsburg child might one day be placed somewhere on the European chessboard, and Mary was paying attention. In 1515, there was a double marriage. Mary was married to Louis II of Hungary and Bohemia. His sister Anne would marry Mary's brother Ferdinand. Her regency was actually quite brief. She immediately began coordinating with her brother, pushing for military reinforcements against the Ottomans and working to shore up Habsburg influence. The Hungarian nobles famously said, if only she were a king, our affairs would be in better shape. In other words, they trusted her ability more than that of the actual monarchs. Mary didn't seek a crown of her own, but she stepped into power decisively when it was placed on her, and that instinct to take charge when needed but never pretend to actually enjoy it would define the rest of her political life. After her brother formally took the Hungarian throne, Mary assumed she would be allowed to step back. Instead, the Habsburgs moved her to the Netherlands, where her aunt Margaret of Austria, had just died, leaving a power vacuum. Charles V needed someone he could trust, someone with steel, someone who would hold his fractious territories together. So he appointed Mary as the governor of the Netherlands, making her not just his sister, but effectively his regional stand-in for one of the richest economic centers in Europe. And this is where she intersects with Tudor history again. In England, Henry had just broken with Rome and was posturing for recognition as the head of the church. Charles V, as Catherine of Aragon's nephew, refused to acknowledge the divorce. But it wasn't Charles personally making daily decisions about English diplomacy. It was Mary of Hungary in Brussels, carefully issuing responses and managing the correspondence. And that's why Mary Tudor had to write to her, not to her brother Charles, when she was forced to sign the document acknowledging her own legitimacy. She had to send her submission to a woman who ruled like a sovereign, even though she technically served her brother. Mary governed in the Netherlands with a firm hand. Unlike her aunt Margaret, who was known for her charm and lightness, Mary was described as sharp, dry, and a little bit terrifying. She constantly begged to be allowed to resign, saying the job felt like a rope around her neck. But at the same time, she established a permanent naval defense for the Low Countries and held the provinces together through riots, financial crises, and Protestant unrest. Eventually, Charles allowed her to retire to Castile, where she hoped to live quietly with her sister Eleanor and her aging brother. But in an almost poetic ending, all three siblings, Charles, Eleanor, and Mary, died within months of each other in 1558, closing out one of the most politically influential sibling dynasties in European history. So that is who the Mary of Hungary was that we talked about in the Tudor Minute a couple of days ago when we said Mary Tudor, Henry's daughter, had to write this letter acknowledging her legitimacy to Mary of Hungary. So Mary of Hungary's rule didn't directly shape or reshape Tudor England, but there she was just across the channel controlling one of Europe's wealthiest regions. And when Henry forced his daughter to write to her admitting her illegitimacy, it wasn't just writing a letter to her cousin, to her family, it was diplomacy. Mary wasn't a figure in Henry's story, but Henry had to acknowledge that she was one of the people that he could not ignore. So there you go, yet another woman. There were all of these very powerful women taking control in the 16th century. It was kind of this like golden age for women. We have women in France, we have queens regnant in England, a queen regnant in Scotland. So many, we have Margaret of Austria a little bit before then. The 16th century sure was a good time to be a woman ruler, I suppose. Anyway, we will leave it there for right now. I hope you enjoyed this little mini cast. If you did, I sure would appreciate a press of that like button wherever you are listening to this. It helps to feed that algorithm and get our content to more people. And I hope I earned your subscription wherever you are listening to this, if I don't already have it. All right, my friend, I will be back again very, very soon. Have a magical day. I'll speak with you soon. Bye-bye.